Hey everybody, it's Gregory Rice from Nexus Property Management, coming to you live from West Warwick, Rhode Island. Little Rhodey definitely in the house today. We like to say good afternoon and welcome to Lyndsey Pachon.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Lyndsey is Nexus's first franchisee ever. So if you're considering a Nexus franchise, what better person to talk to than the first person that ever did it? But before we get into our interview, I'd just like to thank Dove Media Group, Emilio DeSpirito, and Joe Fazio for setting us up and letting us use their studio. We definitely appreciate them. As well as Nick Dagnillo, Nexus's CEO, and the man with the plan. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to get into an interview with Lyndsey and talk about her experiences pre-Nexus, current Nexus, and what her plans are for the future. So Lyndsey, why don't you tell us a little bit about where you came from, what your background is both personally and professionally, and what led you to opening a Nexus franchise?
Okay. Well, I guess I'll start with what led us to opening a Nexus franchise. My husband and I were friends of Nick Dagnello for quite a few years before the business opened. We were able to watch him take his business from a multifamily that he managed and lived in to a property management company with 600 units. So when we found out that Nick was looking to franchise and we were looking to make a move, make an investment, it seemed like a perfect fit because we knew the business well and we were able to really trust in the people that we were working with.
Absolutely. And what was your background? What led you to think, like, you know what? I did this stuff in my past.
Right.
How can this better equip me, or how can this set me up to manage a property management company?
Right. So I would honestly say that the experience that gave me the greatest support in what I'm doing now was working as a teacher in a city school. Really working with a diverse group of families and problem solving and dealing with the challenges that families face on a day-to-day basis is really something that carries over into working with our tenants and understanding their family dynamic and what they need from us and how we can create an environment for them that's going to be conducive to their success and the owner's successes.
Got it. So why don't you tell the viewers, the listeners, what it was like to open an office?
So I spent last summer painting.
Yeah. I saw it. It came out well.
Yeah. So we actually got really lucky finding the location of our office. We looked at a few spots that were upstairs in office buildings and didn't really have any street space, any square footage of the street. So once we stumbled across our office, it happened to have been one that my husband and I saw when we were touring Fall River on Google Earth, and we said, that would be a perfect spot for us. But then the date in Google Earth was 2012 or something. So our office had been vacant since then, and there was a sign on the door, and we called the owner of the building and negotiated a lease that day. So choosing our storefront where our office was located was a big step for us once we had committed to the franchise. And that was the point at which I could envision myself sitting in this office every day and kind of,
right.
Creating this business. So, moving forward from there, there was, all the logistical things that I hadn't done before in terms of opening a business, incorporating and, dealing with attorneys and taxes and, all those things were kind of things that we needed to learn as we went. We leaned heavily on you and on Nick to get through that process. But, so far so good. It seems like we didn't make any mistakes there that we know of yet. And now that really took us to the time that we had to spend training with Nexus. So,
right.
I spent a lot of time at your office. Greg and I became good friends working together, and, just really sitting behind Greg's desk gave me the experience of running the office. So, after you and I spent so much time together, just discussing your day-to-day, and I spent time with Ken, the maintenance director, and Mick, the leasing director, and got a feel for the whole business. Yeah. So I was able to really replicate that in my office pretty closely.
And one of the nice things about opening a Nexus franchise is that every office will be different. They're not all cookie cutter boxes like you see in McDonald's or Dunkin' Donuts. You get to make it your own. You get to inject your own personality, your own preferences, the things that you like, the things that you don't like. And you don't need a huge sprawling office to start. You could start with a 100 square foot office like we did in Pawtucket, our first office ever. And then as you grow, maybe you can increase that space or find a new location or add more desks.
Right.
You don't need to do it all up front. And Lyndsey will tell you she has a couple desks. It's very intimate. She has her dog in there. It's a really laid back atmosphere. And the best part is she has fresh fruit on the counter. So I definitely go to Fall River just to get a banana sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you're enjoying the fruit.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure, our office is scalable. We happen to have a lot of square footage, but we're not utilizing it. More than anything, the location is what we are. What our goal was in planting ourselves there. People drive by to go to court every day in Fall River, and they see our office. So
right.
We've become, a staple on the street, on South Main Street. So that's more important for us than the square footage is. Our staff is growing very quickly. But we are going to be adding more and more desks as time goes by.
Cool. So why don't you tell us about the most difficult experiences or the difficult things that you encountered opening a franchise and how you got through them?
Right. Well, I think that there had been a lot of build up to, opening day. We had to wait on some sort of administrative things to happen, and there was a little bit of a waiting game for a few weeks there. And then I think that the day that we finally opened, and we started with like 16 or 17 units because we took over some units that were in our territory that the Pawtucket Nexus was managing. So once we started, I realized, the 24-hour response line is on, it's hot, and it's mine now.
Right.
So I had this kind of constant thought, like, I have this responsibility 24/7. It was almost like having a newborn baby again, And we were lucky in that the calls that we received, in the night were, I don't even say that we were lucky. We were well prepared. We were able to manage the calls. I went into it knowing that, without a staff in the beginning, I was going to be responding to some things. The staff came very quickly because we've grown so quickly, and now we're able to kind of spread that sort of responsibility around through the company. But I think that the most difficult thing for me was just the weight of the responsibility of knowing that people are their investments, their livelihoods, their families' futures, they're just kind of handing it over to us to manage, and the expectation is that we will do that well. So that was
big responsibility.
Yeah, it felt like a really big responsibility, and it still does, but it's one now that I feel confident in the fact that we can manage it well. So it's a lot easier now.
Good answer.
Thanks,
that was a
Greg.
great answer.
Yeah.
So a good segue from that is, a lot of franchise opportunities are really offering you a full-time job, J-O-B. What Nexus strives very hard to offer is a career, not only for you as the franchisee, but for each and every one of your employees. So your lowest rank employee, in theory, has the ability to scale through the entire ranking system of the company to become the maintenance director or the general manager. That's the goal, is to give everybody opportunity, and that has a lot of value. So my question to you is, what has been, or what have been, some of the most rewarding experiences that you felt, because now you're making a difference not only in your life, your owner's life, your tenant's life, but also your community's life?
Yeah.
What have been some of your winning moments, if you will?
Yeah, we've had a few of them. I've felt really good quite a few times, but I would say that part of the training process was really spending some time to delve into the corporate culture of Nexus, because I think what's made Nexus successful is that the employees are all have a positive vision of the company, and I think that is something that I want to make sure translates into our office. So the corporate culture I think is founded very heavily upon the fact that there is room for growth. So somebody who, with no college education and, a skilled trade can, find their way into a position that maybe will be better for them as their body wears out a little bit, or there are those management positions for someone who's experienced but maybe doesn't want to be out on the road anymore. And I think that is working towards building a corporate culture is definitely one of the greater challenges that I'm facing, but also it feels rewarding when I see that my staff is responding well to the things that we're trying to do. In terms of like major wins, I have one of my first investors with Nexus was someone who called me and said, I want to purchase 40 units. And I said, all right, well, let's do it, Yeah. So, we started searching, and the reality was he already had another agent that he was working with, a real estate agent that he was working with out of Boston. So this person kind of was blowing off his phone calls and not really actively pursuing property for him. And the market in Fall River was, exploding at the time. The prices were amazing. So I went and did a bit of an analysis, like a neighborhood analysis in Fall River, New Bedford, to kind of help him to understand like what the demographics were in the different neighborhoods and where he wanted to own property. And I think that taking that initiative was kind of what helped me to, take over in that role of working as a buyer's agent for this person. And, I've had that experience with a few different clients in different ways of, really taking like the extra steps to work with the investors, because they don't just need someone to facilitate the transaction. Like there's so much more to, there's so much more to helping someone select an investment property and then getting them in it and, making the right offer at the right time. And I think if you're just sitting back waiting for that to come to you, somebody else is going to take that opportunity. So
absolutely. So if you're just joining us, welcome. Thank you. I'm Gregory Rice from Nexus Property Management, the Vice President of Franchise Sales. We're here with Lyndsey Pachon of Fall River, Massachusetts, Nexus's first franchise ever.
Yes.
Ever. And property management, you probably think, what are you guys doing that's different? It's a really plain Jane kind of business in most people's eyes. But what we've done really is replace a lot of the human functions with customized and software that we've built. Nick Dagnillo, our CEO, is the software king, okay? He builds it. If we have a problem, he builds the software. And that's what we've done. Payroll, billing, records keeping, reconciliation, leasing, it's all systemized and it's all customized. So that's what you're getting as a franchisee, is tailor-made software specifically to Nexus. It's not some clunky QuickBooks operation that you can make it work. It is exactly for our daily needs, and that's one of the great advantages. So Lyndsey, talk to us about scaling.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that you have softwares in place, you don't have a receptionist, you don't have clerical workers, you don't have a secretary sitting at the front desk. You've eliminated all that.
Right.
So all your costs are very, very minimized. How does that translate into you growing now?
Well, the reality is our overhead is set to a certain extent. The more business that we do, the more staff we have, but our staff is based on their production. Their pay is based on production. So, our profitability kind of grows exponentially, I guess you might say, just in the sense that it doesn't cost more to operate when we have 500 units than it does with 100 units.
Right.
So, as far as running the business, I can sit behind my desk and manage 100 properties the same way as I sit behind my desk and I could manage 700 properties. It's, increasing the staff and having the right people on board is key, but, with the software that we do have and the systems that are in place, we're able to really streamline that process. And I think that, like, something that Nick said to me once is a lot of property management companies max out around 200 units. They can't really do it anymore effectively. But I don't see that ceiling, or really any ceiling for that matter. With a strong general manager in place, who I seem to have, and a valuable staff, I think that thousands of units, there's no cap.
So a good point to bring up here is that you're probably thinking in your mind, oh, I have to hire more employees. That's going to cost me more.
Yeah.
And in a traditional business, yes, because you're paying them salary. So every hour they're on the clock is costing you 20% of that hour just in taxes, insurance, blah, blah, blah. The way that Nexus suggests that you pay your employees is for performance. So you pay for performance. Nobody is on salary. If somebody is on salary, it's your decision as the franchisee, not theirs. So the maintenance techs, for example, they go, they unclog a toilet, they get paid for their show up, the hour they were there, any materials, and they're on to the next job. So it doesn't cost you virtually anything to hire on 1 or 100 employees because they're all fending for themselves. And when you have this model, there's built-in efficiency. So they want to get to the next job. They're quick. They work on Saturdays. They may work on Sundays. It's good for you as the franchisee. It's good for your owners that you manage for, as well as the tenants.
Right. It really leverages your earning potential just in the sense that, like, I think of it as every time there's a tech working an hour, I'm getting paid basically the same amount for that hour. So, 15 techs out on the road, collectively what they're earning for themselves, we are as well earning. So.
And the beautiful thing is, no matter where you are in the world, there is some type of rental property. Okay, so New England, where the home of the Industrial Revolution, is very plentiful. I'm here in West Warwick right now with Lyndsey. I look out the window, all I see are multifamily houses. As Lyndsey says, it's a sea of multifamilies. But that doesn't matter if you're in Florida, if you're in California, if you're in Kentucky, there's rental property. So don't be scared by where you are in the country. There's always an opportunity, and what we'll do is we'll help you. Okay, you can speak to Lyndsey, you can speak to me, and we'll give you suggestions on what area is best, as well as what things you should avoid, such as farm and rural areas, because there's no people. Okay, very simple. So if you're interested in learning more about our franchise opportunity, or to speak to Lyndsey, myself, just reach out to us, nexuspropertymanagement.com. That's Nexus propertymanagement.com. And just so you know, the pricing, very transparent. It's $25,000 as a one-time franchise fee. $25,000. Compared to the other models out there, you could spend $250,000 on a franchise fee. And this is very low overhead, easy to scale, okay? And the royalties, since we're here, we have 6%, 2%, and 1%. We can tell you what those entail once you contact us. And Lyndsey, thank you very much for being here.
You.
Thank you again to Joe Fazio, Emilio Despirito of Dove Media Group. And once again, we're coming to you from West Warwick, Rhode Island. If you don't know where it is, just Google it and you'll see why we work here. Once again, guys, thank you for joining us. Have a great day.
Thank you for tuning in.